This week, let's discover the profound revelations in Mark's Gospel as Jesus demonstrates his unmatched power and compassion. In doing so, we'll witness the escalating miracles culminating in the healing of a suffering woman and the raising of a young girl. We'll then reflect on the call to share hope and light with those who feel beyond reach. Join us to explore how Jesus' unstoppable love invites us to actively participate in bringing healing and wholeness to the world. We were on vacation on the southern Outer Banks of North Carolina. It was a big family vacation, and multiple family members learned how to play a card game called four-hand or two-deck pinochle. Pam, my dad, and I had been playing for a while. Actually, my dad for a long while. So we taught our nephews and a few others how to play. We were playing along and had just dealt and organized our hands for a game. That's no easy feat in this game because you had to hold and keep track of 20 cards. Someone announced it was time to pack up for our planned trip to see the lighthouse at Diamond Shoals, a day-long trip by chartered ferry. Well, we laid down our cards so that we could come back to them that evening. Well, our oldest nephew did so quite reluctantly, but he really loved playing games, so that wasn't strange. Well, we did our trip. It was the trip where most of the food was left behind, and I had to feed our 7-month-old son with formula from a water bottle with a hole in it. But that's another story. You see, we got back from our trip, and our nephew insisted we get right back to that game. Well, we sat down and we began bidding, and his bid was rather bizarre. Okay, so he wins the bid. In Pinochle, you then lay out your cards that show your meld points, determined by certain combinations. He then dramatically laid out 2 cards at a time to show a double run, a statistically very rare hand. It has a lot of power. Even my dad had never seen one. Well, we had to sit on that. He had to sit on that and tell no one for a whole day. A double run is 2 cards of each of 5 ranks, all in the same suit. Each rank more and more powerful, and seeing him lay it down was pretty amazing. I thought of the impact and amazement of seeing the up to then mythical double run when I was studying the gospel this week. See, I was reading Matthew Skinner's commentary that looked at today's gospel in the whole of Mark's narrative and what he was trying to show about Jesus. You see, Mark's disclosing sort of a double run in the first few chapters. 5 instances, each building in power and significance and being revealed by Mark. Thus far in Mark, he has healed people with words or touch, commanded unclean spirits, controlled the weather. Now the energy that radiates from him heals a woman without him even willing it, and then he brings a young woman back from death. Wow, to witness that. Jesus reveals what he holds, the life that he gives to the world. He lays out and displays that he has power over all things up to and through creation and death itself. That is what Mark's narrative has been building up to this point. At the outset, Mark wants to show just who Jesus is, who the disciples are following, and who the reader is to come to experience. Mark presents the evidence of God with us in Jesus Christ and beautifully shows right here in this text what we can expect from the one who commands wind and wave, exudes life, and has dominion over death itself. I think that the wisdom of the world would tell us what to expect from one with this type of power. We see world leaders sit down with other world leaders. We see the rich sit down with the rich, the famous with the famous, and power with power. Isn't that kind of what we expect? Now, here's an interesting observation about the book of Mark. We have to remember there's no birth narrative here. There's no little town of Bethlehem. In Matthew and Luke, we are told about this baby born in lowly circumstances, and that he is Emmanuel, God with us. John tells us that the Word was from the very beginning and became flesh to live among us. In Mark, not so much. We get a bug-eating man dressed in camel fur telling us to prepare the way and baptizing Jesus. The Spirit rests upon him, and God tells us that he is his son. But that title's been used before for others. In Mark, we see this wonderful escalating revelation and hear full disclosure of the magnitude of Jesus' identity when we thought he had the mother lode last week with the calming of the storm. Yet coupled with this display of power is something else. We see the powerful with Jesus and him going with them. The leader with all those with him in fear for the illness of his daughter, all with him and supporting him. The crowd around Jesus is obviously pretty impressive and tight. The crowd goes with him to see what will happen because this is the big new thing. The illness of this leader's daughter is front page stuff. The story contains all the stuff that catches the public eye. In contrast, though, we see a woman who had a chronic condition, a problem that was really old news, with no one there to support her. She's not wealthy or powerful. She had expended all her resources just trying to get better. She had been around to all the specialists and was seemingly beyond hope. She's so out of the limelight and overlooked that she feels that she needs to sneak a blessing. She may be long forgotten by the physicians and the crowd, but there are still embers of hope that are kindled in the presence of Jesus. With her condition, according to the law, she's not supposed to be around bumping into people, but there will never be an opportunity when it will be okay. And this is her only hope. If she could just touch, even without him knowing, she felt that that would be enough. Well, amidst the hubbub and the hurry, the summons of the powerful, and the drive of the crowd toward the next big thing, Jesus stops and acknowledges her. She gets her time too. The embers of hope are so low and the one in need so lowly, and Jesus stopped for her. She is made whole, lifted up before the crowd, and restored. Meanwhile, the embers of hope have burned out completely at the leader's house. This is not some cruel stalling tactic by Jesus to prove a point. I don't think he was waiting for her to die, but serving all. But now the girl has moved beyond the veil of death. The people see that there is no hope and encourage the leader to do the polite thing. My friend told us a very moving story this week. It was a time of lowest points, and someone had the uncalled for audacity to take a parting shot at him and tell him that there was no hope. This was a pastor friend that had witnessed the power of the gospel, the power that is illustrated in this story. He told the individual to never tell him that there is no hope. We see here that Jesus is hope beyond the veil of death. This is the stage setter for the whole book of Mark. This is his literary laying out of the cards. It's kind of interesting when you look at the point system for Double-Deck Pinochle. They go into that group of monkeys typing for millions of years producing Shakespeare kind of odds, and into that area of probability, because they list not only the double run, but the triple and quadruple run. That's getting all the cards of one suit, every single one of them. That's pretty broad odds. And winning with that hand would be incontestable. You would hold all the cards of power. But isn't that what Jesus is holding? Mark puts forth here that the one who is all powerful cares for the powerless and the hopeless. That joy my nephew had, busting at the seams all day to share it and getting to lay out the cards for all to see, that's Mark, busting at the seams, sharing with us the gospel. That's our ability to share the gospel. But Mark just isn't playing a card game. Mark's laying out the message of the one who brings healing, wholeness, and forgiveness. Mark shows Jesus' unbeatable hand. As Jesus' followers, we are called not to just watch the hand get played out, but to be active participants in bringing healing, wholeness, and forgiveness. We are called to share light in life because it has been shared with us. I want to close with a point that Matt Skinner made in his commentary for this passage. He writes, in Anna Carter Florence's newest book, she ponders Mark's comment about the woman living with a hemorrhage. It says, she had heard about Jesus, verse 27. Florence contemplates what stories or acclamations the woman had heard from others, and reminds us that we never know where the things we say about Jesus will end up. There are people who wonder whether they are beyond reach or doomed to suffer. How might we plant a seed of hope in someone who finds their way to it and then finds their way to Jesus, even without our knowledge? End quote. My friend is right. We're followers of Jesus. Let's remember Florence's quote. Let's never say there's no hope. Let's walk together with one another in the world and always share the light of Christ and the hope that it gives.